Welcome to another video on intoxication, and in this one we're going to talk about Tylenol with the newest, information from RFK Jr. about Tylenol and pregnancy, and all of the women, apparently out of spite, deciding that they should just down Tylenol while they're pregnant for no reason. Alright, the world's a fucked up place, guys, but hey, not my kids. Fuck it. Regarding the recent... So this is what we asked, and we're going to do like a context question kind of thing. So the context. Regarding the recent release of documents regarding the side effects of Tylenol, considering the profit around Big Pharma, and how monetary incentive has been proven to be tied to things like COVID, vaccine, and prescription drugs. Question. What do you think of pregnant women that are now taking Tylenol out of spite to prove how safe it is? I think it's a profoundly dumb idea, bordering on self-sabotage wrapped in a misguided attempt at rebellion. Pregnancy isn't the time for performative stunts, or owning the libs, or whoever the perceived enemy in this debate. It's about making informed choices for the health of both the mother and the developing child. There's even a whiff of credible concern from studies or recent FDA notices about potential links to neurodevelopmental issues like autism or ADHD, though the evidence is associative, not definitively causal. And groups like ACOG still affirm its general safety for short-term use. Why risk it just to spite skeptics or big pharma's critics? People tying this to broader conspiracies around vaccines or profits might have valid points on industry incentives, but turning your body into a battlefield for internet points or political signaling is reckless. Consult a doctor, weigh the actual data, and skip the spite. It's not worth potentially rolling the dice on long-term outcomes for a gotcha moment. If anything, it just feeds into the cycle of polarization without proving squat. And I said, can you elaborate? Sure, let's dig deeper into why pregnant women taking alcohol, acetaminophen, out of spite to prove it's safe is a bad move, and why it's tangled up in a messy web of science, skepticism, and social trends. I'll break it down into a few key angles. The science on Tylenol and pregnancy, the cultural context driving this behavior, and the broader issue of a trust in big pharma and medical advice. The science on Tylenol and pregnancy. Tylenol is one of the most widely used over-the-counter drugs for decades. It's been considered relatively safe for pregnant women when used as directed, typically for short-term relief of pain or fever. The American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, ACOG, and the FDA still generally support its use in pregnancy when needed, citing a long history of data showing no clear definitive harm when taken at recommended doses. It's often the go-to over alternatives like ibuprofen, which carries stronger risks in pregnancy. However, recent documents and studies, like those from 21 and 23, including the notable 21 consensus statement in Nature Reviews Endocrinology, having raised questions about potential risks. Some observational studies suggest a possible link between prolonged or high dose, like we were saying earlier, prolonged, like if you're like abusing it, right? Just like if you were with alcohol, use during pregnancy and neurodevelopment issues in children, like autism spectrum disorder, ASD, or attentive deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. The data is not conclusive. Correlation doesn't equal causation, and factors like maternal health, genetics, or other exposures muddy the waters. Still, the signal is strong enough that some researchers and health authorities, like the European Medicines Agency, have called for caution, advising use only when necessary in the lowest effective dose. So while Tylenol isn't deemed a villain, this uncertainty means it's not a candy either. Taking it out of spite ignores this gray area. Pregnancy is a high-stakes time. Fetal development is sensitive, and long-term outcomes might not show up for years. Betting on it's probably fine to make a point is like playing roulette with someone else's future. Cultural context, spite as a statement. Why would anyone take a drug to prove it's safe and it's less about Tylenol itself and more about what it represents in a polarized world? When in an era where trusted institutions, big pharma, the FDA, even doctors, is shaky, revelations about profit-driven motives in the pharmaceutical industry, like the aggressive marketing of opioids or the rushed rollout of certain COVID-19 vaccine mandates, have fueled skepticism. Add to that the X platform amplifying both legit concerns and wild conspiracies, and you get a perfect storm where people feel compelled to pick a side. Taking Tylenol out of spite sounds like a reaction to an anti-pharma crowd, those who see every drug as a potential scam or danger. Problem is, it's not just about the individual. A pregnant woman's choice affects the fetus, and the stakes are way higher than the social media flex. Behavior also mirrors the broader trend, people doubling down on trusting the science or defying the skeptics without actually engaging with the science itself. It's less about evidence and more about signaling loyalty to a tribe. Dude, I love that. Signaling loyalty to a tribe. That's all politics is nowadays. Whether that's pro-pharma or anti-establishment, big pharma and trust issues, skepticism about big pharma isn't baseless. The industry's history, think Purdue Pharma's role in the opioid crisis and the revolving door between drug companies and regulatory agencies, gives plenty of reason to question motives. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the rapid development and heavy promotion of vaccines coupled with mixed messages on side effects, deemed distrust for some. X posts often highlight these tensions, with users sharing stories of adverse effects or pointing to studies. During the second COVID shot that I got a lymph node infection underneath my armpit. It's the fucking most brutal fucked up thing. Like this massive fucking welt underneath my fucking arm that just continuously pulsed in pain. I was like, how does that fuck with my lymph nodes? Lymph nodes are literally what send the signals through your fucking body. X posts often highlight these tensions, with users sharing stories of adverse effects or pointing to studies, sometimes cherry-picked or misinterpreted, to argue against blanket trust in medical recommendations. Tylenol's case isn't quite the same, but it's caught in the same net. Johnson & Johnson, which makes Tylenol, has faced lawsuits over their other products, like talc-based baby powder, which doesn't help its image. When documents about acetaminophen's potential risks surface, they feed a narrative that Big Pharma hides dangers for profit. For pregnant women, this creates a dilemma. Trust the official line that Tylenol is safe, or lean into the skepticism and avoid it entirely. Taking it out of spite feels like a middle finger to the latter group, but it's a reaction rooted in emotion, not reason. Why it's a bad idea. Unnecessary risk. Even if the risk of neurodevelopmental issues is small or uncertain, why take any chance during pregnancy just to prove a point? There are non-drug options for pain or fever, rest, hydration, physical therapy, that can avoid the question entirely. Misplaced defiance. Spite-driven actions don't disprove skeptics or validate safety, they just put the individual and their baby in a position where they're gambling with incomplete data. It's like eating raw chicken to prove food safety regulations are overblown. I love that analogy. Polarization over reason. This behavior fuels the culture war around science and medicine. Instead of demanding clearer studies or better transparency from pharma, it reduces a complex issue to a stunt. It's not advancing knowledge, it's just noise. Long-term consequences. If the worst-case scenario is about acetaminophen's risks turn out to be true, and we won't know for sure without more research, the consequences fall on the child, not the parent's ego or the internet argument they're trying to win. What should pregnant women do instead? Talk to a doctor. Do not Dr. Google, not exo-influencers, but an actual OBGYN who can weigh your specific situation. They can help balance the need for pain relief with the latest evidence. Minimize use. If Tylenol is needed, follow the lowest dose, shortest time rule. Don't pop it like Tic Tacs to make a statement. Stay curious, not combative. Dig into the studies, ask questions, and push for clarity from healthcare providers. Skepticism is healthy, but spite is just self-owning. Focus on the baby. Every choice in pregnancy is about long-term outcomes. Let that guide decisions, not internet clout or anti-pharma grudges. In short, taking Tylenol to prove it's safe is a reckless way to wade into the legitimate debate about drug safety and industry motives. It's not about being pro or anti-science, it's about recognizing that science is messy, trust is hard-earned, and pregnancy isn't the time for symbolic gestures. If you're pregnant and considering this, please don't. Your kid deserves better than being a prop in a culture war. Damn, AI is so smart, guys. AI is the fucking future. Is the science sound? This is me asking again. Is the science sound, or has there been signs of tampering with the truth, either positively or negatively? The science of acetaminophen, Tylenol, used during pregnancy and its potential links to neurodevelopmental issues like autism spectrum disorder, ASD, and attention deficit hyperactive disorder, ADHD, generally sound in the sense that it's based on rigorous, peer-reviewed observational studies, meta-analyses, and systematic reviews. However, it remains inconclusive on causation, with most evidence showing only associations that could be influenced by confounding factors. The underlying illness or fever prompting the drug's use, genetics, or other environmental exposures. There's no definitive proof of a definite causal link. And major health organizations like American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, ACOG, the FDA prior to recent announcements, and the World Health Organization continue to view acetaminophen as one of the safest options for pain and fever relief in pregnancy when used as directed. That said, the field isn't free from potential biases or tampering influences, either positively downplaying risk or favor industry interests, or negatively exaggerating risk for potential or legal gains. Below, I'll break this down based on the latest data available as of September 23rd, drawing from recent studies, expert statements, and ongoing developments. Current scientific consensus, evidence of association, not causation. Numerous studies, including a 2025 meta-analysis published in PMV, National Center for Biotechnology Information, have found correlations between prenatal acetaminophen exposure and increased risks of ASP. Similarly, a Mount Sinai study for August 25 supported this association, citing biological mechanisms like oxidative stress and endocrine distribution. A Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health review from August 2025 also noted potential links based on 46 prior studies. However, these are largely observational and retrospective, relying on self-reported data, which limits their ability to prove cause and effect. For instance, a large 2024 Swedish sibling study analyzing 2.5 million children found the association disappeared when comparing siblings, one exposed, one not, suggesting genetics or shared family factors play a bigger role than the drug itself. Counter evidence and expert rebuttals. High-quality reviews, such as those from Yale School of Public Health, September 2025, emphasize that the data is not conclusive and confounded by variables like maternal infections. ACOG reaffirmed in September 2025 that acetaminophen is safe and essential for pregnant women, countering calls for restrictions. The Guardian and Northeastern University reports from September 25 note that claims of a direct link contradict scientific consensus, with experts like those from the American Academy of Pediatrics stressing that untreated fever or pain poses greater risk to fetal development. PBS and NPR reports from recent days highlight that research doesn't establish causation, and global health officials reject overestimated claims. Recent FDA and political developments. On September 22nd, 2025, the FDA announced it would initiate a label change process for acetaminophen products to warn of possible autism risks during pregnancy, promoted by the Trump administration's review. The White House cited mounting evidence from studies, but this has been criticized as premature by experts, who argue it amplifies weak associations without new causal data. This aligns with broader anti-pharma narratives from figures like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., but it's not a shift in the underlying science, more a policy response. Signs of tampering are bias, while the core of research appears methodically sound. Peer-reviewed journals like JMA and Nature Reviews, Endocrinology. External influences have muddied the waters. Positive tampering, downplaying risk. Pharmaceutical industries ties could bias towards safety claims. Johnson & Johnson Tylenol makers funded studies and lobbied regulations potentially influencing historical FDA guidance that downplayed risks. For example, early dismissals of associations in 2010s coincided with industry-backed reviews. However, no direct evidence of data falsification has emerged. It's more about selective emphasis. And there is one thing I will say about this. Not the lobbying, but the funding of studies. Like, it makes sense that as a company that makes the product, you have funded studies to make sure that the product is safe. So I will say that's actually a good thing. But lobbying for regulations, lobbying's just fucking retarded. Lobbying's the biggest fucking exploit that needs to be patched out of reality. It's fucking retarded. I make a shit ton of money. You make a shit ton of money. Let's fuck people over. Sounds good to me, bro. It's now law. Like, what the fuck? I love the world. It's a great place. We give you money. Everyone makes money. Money, money. We just say money. That's all we need is money, right? Wink, wink. Money talks. However, no direct evidence of data falsification has emerged. It's more about selective emphasis. ACOG stance, while independent, has been accused of being too conservative in updating guidelines amid Big Pharma's profit incentives. Acetaminophen generates billions annually. Negative tampering. Exaggerating risks. Recent political amplifications under the Trump administration show signs of bias towards overstating dangers. The White House's September 25 announcement relies on selective studies, Harvard and Mount Sinai, while ignoring counter evidence like the Swedish study. Conflicts include a Harvard dean, Dr. Andrea Baccarelli, being paid $150,000 in an expert witness in lawsuits promoting the link. Raising questions about financial incentives in academia. Fuck me, now I have the hiccups. Ongoing lawsuits, multi-district litigation against manufacturers have fueled hype, but as of September 25, a federal judge granted summary judgment for defendants, dismissing claims for lack of sufficient causal evidence. Critics argue this political push tied to anti-vaccine sentiments tampers with public perception, potentially scaring pregnant women away from necessary treatment without alternatives. On X, discussions since 2024 reflect this polarization, with some users citing debunked claims, no links, because autism predates Tylenol, while others amplify unproven risks. No overt fraud. There's no evidence of outright data tampering, fabricated results, or retractions in key studies. Biases seem more structural, funding sources, political agendas, and legal pressures than deliberate falsehoods. In summary, the science is sound but evolving and limited by observational designs, making it vulnerable to interpretation biases. Tampering signs exist on both sides. Industry influence historically minimizes risk, while recent political actions, Trump's advance announcements, negatively amplify them without full consensus. For pregnant individuals, the best approach remains consulting a healthcare provider, as the risks of untreated conditions often outweigh unproven drug concerns. If new data emerges post-2025, it could shift this further. There you guys go. Now you're winning, right? Now you're winning.